Hello, I'm Monsignor Charles Minor.
And I'm Alice Vale. Welcome to this edition of Reel to Reel. In the past, whenever I've heard the word clown, I think of the circus and people with big noses and bright painted faces making other people laugh. But I've learned that there's a serious side to clowns, and some of them display their seriousness through a ministry. I'll share this with you later on.
In Lancaster, Kentucky, there is another type of ministry, this one ecumenical in nature, which helps create job opportunities. We'll travel to Lancaster shortly. We'll also take a look at Earth from the outside and visit with a dancer who teaches his art to nursing home patients.
When we think of clowns, we usually think of funny-faced people wearing bright, baggy clothes performing in the circus. They make us laugh and they make us feel good. Well, faith and fantasy clowns are a group of young people who use the ancient art of clowning to spread God's word. They make people feel good about themselves and their religion.
Day by day, oh dear Lord.
Although most of us associate clowns with the circus, they are actually an ancient tradition. From the time before history was recorded, clowns were used in the tribes. Their role was to stand before the tribe and mimic the actions of its members in an effort to point out their wrongdoing and help them get back on the right path. Clowns were also active in medieval churches as holy interpreters, popping up to illustrate a theological point through mime, magic, or even mockery. Today, Christian clown groups have revived this ancient tradition. About 5 years ago, after attending a Christian clown workshop, Angela Mullen and Janet Scarcia brought the faith and fantasy clowns to the Philadelphia Archdiocese.
You're still there?
The whole weekend experience was very breathtaking and really did not hit me until around 3 months later when I realized the whole theology behind it, because I saw the need for it once I came back to Philadelphia.
What are the different types of clowns?
White-faced clown originated over in France, and it's a very prim and proper clown, and a very neat clown who has white all over their face and very neat designs, which are exaggerations of their own features.
The Auguste clown is the typical, or what you might call the typical circus clown. It's the big eyes and the big smile, and it's just white predominantly in the eye area and the mouth area, and then all the colors all around that. And he's the buffoon, the one who gets slapped if there is someone to be slapped, the one who falls down. But it's always very innocently done. He never really knows why he's getting slapped. He kind of walks into things all the time. And the third type of clown is the hobo clown. Of course, he's the dirty-faced, slow-moving, not really particular about how he looks type of a clown.
Just as the clowns are different, so is the makeup. Every bit of makeup a Christian clown puts on his face has a meaning. White, for example, symbolizes a covering over of themselves so another person can come out.
Christian clown, you're not only covering over a part of you, but you're dying. You're dying to something inside of you that you really would like to get rid of, a part of your life that really doesn't help you to live to the Christian values that you profess. The other colors are a joyful representation of the new creation and the resurrection that I feel very responsible for. I'm a part of that. So I want to take responsibility for building the new creation, with the Lord, and so I've risen with him in my colors.
Along with two others, Angela and Janet have combined these different types of clowns, makeup, and the art of clowning itself into an outreach program to interest others in the value of Christian clowning.
I find the value in just freeing myself to love people, reach out to people in a way that they sometimes wouldn't normally allow me to do it. Walk into a mall, or at least when I walk into a mall, I'm really affected by the fact that I see a lot of old people sitting around, lonely people, and I always want to do something for them. As Angela, I can't, but as soon as I put on Charlie, the other part of me, they will allow me to come up to them and come into their life, at least for a few minutes, a few seconds, and just gently play with them and love them, maybe for the first time that day, or that week, or that month. We have shy people who come into our workshops. We have outgoing people. We have noisy people who suddenly become quiet, and quiet people become noisy. Doctors, lawyers, nurses, mommies, daddies, secretaries, you name them. We have varied.
It equalizes everybody in the community. It equalizes when the classroom, the teacher and the student become on the same level, because there's a clown in each and every one of us, and it makes people more approachable.
I think many times people are looking for another way to speak who they are and how they feel about you or about someone else. And I think for many people it is a way for them to tell the story of who they are to someone else in quite a visual way.
Bob Meinhardt is one of God's Clods, a group of clowns who often visit hospitals or homes like the Methodist Home for Children. This group got its start through a faith and fantasy workshop.
We actually first saw the clowns perform at a Thanksgiving agape, a mass, I mean. And I always had a childhood ambition to be a clown. And about a year later, I got involved in a workshop, and here we are. Purpose is basically just to spread a little bit of love, where it's really needed. In the nursing homes, hospitals, orphanages, on the street. We give a smile to everybody.
Although clowning is an art enjoyed by many people, it's not always accepted. There are those who object to the presence of clowns during the liturgy, saying a church service should be a solemn occasion.
That we're there is to help them to celebrate, to help everyone to celebrate in a joyful manner. Because in the liturgy, we are living the life, the death, and the resurrection of the Lord. And so the celebration, of course, and the hopefulness of the resurrection is one of the things that we are all about. And in our clowns, we live that whole story too, the life, death, and resurrection. And so we tend to express the more joyful aspects, of course, the resurrection. And if people can celebrate that way and can really let themselves go and can join in with us, that's fine. But if they cannot and they have to see themselves in a more solemn tone, that's fine. I mean, we all pray in different ways.
If we just reach one person, then we will have accomplished what we were meant to do as Christian clowns.
Day by day, day by day, oh.
In the few years that they've been in existence, the Faith and Fantasy Clowns have attracted numerous followers, including a psychiatrist and a marriage counselor who use this art in dealing with their patients. But the main thrust of the Faith and Fantasy Clowns is to reach out and share God's love with all people in a unique and special way.
In the beginning, God's Spirit hovered over the waters. Let there be light. God called light day, and darkness night. Let there be a vault, and God called the vault heaven. Let the waters come together, and the dry land appear. The dry land God called earth, and the mass of waters the seas. Let the earth produce vegetation, and God saw that it was good. God made the two great lights, the greater to govern the day, the smaller the night. Let the waters teem with living creatures, and let birds fly, and let other living creatures roam the earth, wild beasts, cattle, reptiles. And in God's own image, let there be man and woman. And so it was. God saw all creation, and indeed it was very good.
The newspaper is full these days about stories of changing economic priorities and the effect that hard economic times are having on families. Hello, I'm Father Jim Young. Over the years that I've been working with families in trouble, I've become convinced that many marriages break down not because couples didn't want lasting marriages, not because they didn't work hard at building a lasting marriage, but often it seems they just didn't have a chance. When they set out to build the necessary friendship and interpersonal relationship between them, it seemed that at times the floor fell out from under them. It may have been joblessness, moving from one town to another. It may have been emotional stress brought on by the war in Vietnam and separation. It may have been a lack of a decent place to live or the support of friends and family. We're finding that the collapse of these social supports can wound the capacity of couples to build the lasting marriages that they want. That's why all of us in the church community are becoming increasingly involved in the discussions around changing economic priorities in the United States. We know that less money for housing, less money for food, less money for jobs will have devastating effects upon families. That's why we're calling upon citizens to become involved in the social and political discussions in this society about economic priorities, and to make sure wherever the sacrifices are made in this society, that they are not sacrifices which are going to wound families. We must insist that if couples are to have the lasting marriages they want, they must have necessary social supports.
Good morning, world. Shake your fingers and your toes. Oh.
This is Carroll Manor. It's a Catholic nursing home in Washington, D.C. And this is 28-year-old Jeffrey Harrison. Jeff's a professional dancer with the Greg Reynolds Dance Quintet. And every Thursday morning, he shares his gift of dance with the 20 or more senior citizens who voluntarily choose to join his dance class.
Okay, that's not bad for the first time. Walter, with the arms. And Ada?
The first few weeks I was very nervous about it. I came to find that using a dancer's knowledge of the body and of using time and space and energy in different ways and rhythm, that you really can construct a very enjoyable class that gets people moving and singing.
We bow and we sit back up and hands on the hips. Everybody, here we go. Bow to the front.
When I first started teaching, I saw these little bodies, and I was very scared that I would be able to be sensitive enough to these little bodies. I found from teaching, but by looking in these people's eyes, I realized that these bodies were just the houses of their spirit. Again, I teach many populations of people, but I find that teaching these seniors gives me the most satisfaction and most reward. And it may be just that they sing a song that they start to sing again, which they've forgotten that they could do, or they hold one another's hands and they haven't held hands for a long time.
The power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Oh, well, very good.
Many people think that dance is something that you do when you're young. A certain population of people dance, and I think it's for everyone.
Bravo, everybody. Bravo.
What began as a parish self-help program directed by a Catholic priest has blossomed into a nonprofit ecumenical organization in the hills of Appalachia. The Christian Appalachian Project, as it is called, has made great contributions to Garrard County, especially in the area of employment.
This is Appalachia, eastern Kentucky. Warm weather is coming on. The winter has been long, cold, and hard, but the coming spring promises to be equally long and warm and beautiful. Appalachia has been through another kind of winter as well. an economic, social, and spiritual winter that has been much harder than the passing of any one season. But dreams die hard here. Appalachia is beautiful, as are her people, and they and their needs and an organization called the Christian Appalachian Project have drawn thousands of volunteers to these hills. They come to keep the dream of a better life alive and bring a spirit of renewal to the people they reach. Rick Darnell is a volunteer in one of the project's home visitation programs. It's the one-on-one relationship between volunteers and the people that forms the backbone of the project's work.
I think the volunteers bring the newness, the feeling to the older folks, to the whole spectrum of people that they come in contact with, that the world is good and is changing. Margie, can I come in? It's a new type of vision that the world isn't dying and isn't receding into some past that never really was, that people still do care.
Margaret is like thousands of other elderly people in Appalachia, isolated, forgotten, and alone, needful of human contact as much as the helping hand they get from volunteers like Rick. She has no doubt about her feelings for these new friends of hers.
It was heaven to know that I had somebody to care. Well, before that, it was, I don't know, I had a hard time. But when I met Father and them, you know, and they started helping me, but boy, it was just like I had me a new family. I don't know, it just looked like God sent his angels to me.
The father referred to is Father Ralph Biting. Father Ralph is a parish priest and pastor at St. William's Church in Lancaster, Kentucky. He is really the starting point for the Christian Appalachian Project. With an idea and a few friends, he began a camp program for boys in the area in 1957. That has led to dozens of programs like this Child Development Center that are now spread out over a 4-county area in Kentucky.
You've been 5 for 6 years? Boy, that's a trick, you know.
I have seen people come from all over the world, and certainly from all parts of our own United States. And they have come and they have taken our dream, a dream that we said that God had a better plan for Appalachia than what we see as being enacted today.
In 1963, Father Ralph incorporated the quickly growing project. He relied on funds that he raised himself and carried on. He has one basic formula for success.
I have simply based our whole existence on the will of God. Now, that sounds pious, and I guess priests ought to say things like that, but it's the truth. We stood on the edge, and we dreamed great dreams, and we took the step, not knowing where we would end up with that step. And thanks be to God, God has not let us alone. We have not had to walk alone. Out of all this, the people were watching us. You know, we were outsiders. We were coming in here, and we were strangers, and I, being a priest, was somebody that, you know, was about as welcome as a porcupine in a balloon party. They just simply didn't, you know what these folks were like. So they watched and they observed.
What they saw was an incredible list of achievements. Since incorporation, 9,345 temporary and permanent volunteers have touched the lives of some 55,000 people. Dozens of projects have produced scores of jobs in the local community, all funded by a direct mail campaign that would be the envy of any fundraising organization.
We have a challenge, both to mind and heart as well as is out there to energy. We're going to have to raise more money because we're going to be asked to do things that no longer are being done by anybody else. And hopefully we'll be putting the right answers to them so that when we get this money or this resources, they'll go to causes that'll really cure problems instead of band-aiding them.
For all the high-tech fundraising, the project has no fewer than 30 programs in full swing. CAP, as it is known, employs 160 people full-time, 200 part-time, and supports 33 permanent volunteers, making it the third largest employer in Garrett County. CAP is a property owner. It's turning this old house into a retirement home. It's given work to carpenters and plumbers during lean winter months. CAP also runs 5 used clothing stores. Over 300 people a week visit this one in Lancaster. But through all the organization, the idea of everyone being part of a big family is very strong. People do not get lost here, and it is due to personal commitments like that of permanent volunteer Barbara Whitty. She's been a volunteer for 5 years, but is now leaving her people to take another job. It's not easy for her or them.
Well, I just think they're beautiful, you know, when you get to know them. I mean, I just have met so many people, and they're each so different. And if you're open to that, you're just opening yourself up to a whole new world. Will you fix me some oyster stew?
Fix what?
Fix me some oyster stew.
Her world now includes 90-year-old Willie Coyle, who, like Margaret Simeon, lives alone. Barbara is one of his best friends.
He's just a real spirit-filled man. He's just really close to God, and he prays everywhere he is, and he's, you know, goes to the Pentecostal church, and he's just a really good person. He trusts and loves everybody.
Go ahead in. Let yourself at home here now.
Barbara's rounds have included over 300 people in the last 5 years, people like Willie and also the Fosters. The Foster family lives up a hollow back in the Kentucky hills. Mr. Foster's wife died a while back, and he now takes care of their 3 retarded children, all over 30.
He just takes care of those 3 kids, and the only other people they see are his son who lives next door and the daughter-in-law and their kids. Nobody else really goes up there ever. They really have a vitality, a spirit that you wonder how it can keep going, because there's nothing really nourishing it a lot of times. I think it's important, it's very easily said, that people visit people. It brings friendship, it brings love. We've lost that. People do, every older person that you visit will tell you that, you know, people don't visit. I believe in the one-to-one. I call it a Christian social call. That's important to these people. That's all that they have in their lives.
I like her as good as I like my own children.
That's what friendship is all about. They need love. They need to be loved. We all need to be loved.
Bye-bye. Bye, kids.
24 years after its modest beginning, the Christian Appalachian Project stands for love in a big way. Yet the needs of the people here are still staggering. For this reason, Father Biting and all the project people continue to enlarge and elaborate on their human services programs. The project responds to need, asks for help, calls for change, and in the process is bringing Eastern Kentucky out of the winter of her past to a new start in a hope-filled future.
We have been a kind of a calling point. We have been a horn on a mountain, as it were, calling to America. Return to your greatness. Return to the things that were once very important, family and tradition and real roots and opportunity and justice and fairness and God.
More than 9,300 volunteers have contributed their services to this Appalachian Self-Help Project. If you'd like to know more about it, why don't you write us here at Reel to Reel. Next week, we'll learn about a disease that has afflicted 2,000 to 3,000 people here in the United States, leprosy. And we'll meet a New Jersey schoolteacher who has never accepted payment for her work.
We hope that our stories about people living their faith have helped you to think about your own. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, please write to us. Our address is Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Philadelphia 19103.
Thank you for joining us this week.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Goodbye, and God bless you.